Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could I please have a vote to go into closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, A9.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I please get a vote to seal the minutes of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
And no votes were taken in executive session.
We need to vote on to seal the minutes executive session. Was moved and seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there were no votes taken in executive session. So we'll move on to public comment on agenda items.
Pull the switch towards you.
There we go. You're here.
I have a comment about the staff conduct policy. That's file, I forgot my glasses, GB something. GBEB. I think the last 3 bullets are unnecessary. They're a little overkill to me. The introductory paragraphs cover those last 3 bullets. So I would think that we could remove those, and it would still suffice as a policy.
Any other people for public comment on agenda items? Okay, I'll end that first public comment. We can move to the approval of minutes of public sessions, May 10th, 2022, and May 24th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of warrants, June 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And approval of transfers, June 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next is the announcements of personnel as presented. Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school committee. Tonight I have 2 retirements to put before you for approval. June Marchant, an elementary teacher at Hoxie. She's given 34 years to Warwick schools and 2 years to the state for a total of 36 years. And on a personal note, she was my daughter's first grade teacher, so I'd like to thank her for that. And then also we have Kathleen Thoreau, a social studies teacher at Veterans with 24 years of service. So thanks to both of them, and I wish them well. 1 point, June Marchant's retirement is not effective until September 30th.
Yeah, we need
Yep.
to vote on that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. Does that mean that she's coming back for a little while?
Yeah, so what ERSRI is telling me is they've kind of changed how they do it. It used to be you retired in
it. Yeah,
June.
I've been
Now
through
it's
it.
based on your birth date and your start date and all things like that. So they give them the date when they're eligible for their full pension.
We don't want her to retire.
We don't.
Well, yeah, no to Joan. No to Joan. She can't retire. Absolutely not. We love her too much. She has to stay.
How many years have she been in the school district?
34 years.
34, she is.
She just said it.
Move approval.
Second.
No,
Second.
we have to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I also have some resignations to put before you. Jennifer Roy, Assistant Director of Special Ed, effective June 30th, with 7 years of service. And Ronald Celio, Elementary Principal, effective June 6th, with 10 years of service. We also have Sarah Liebrand, Custodian at Tollgate. Eileen Katerina, Teacher Assistant at Cedar Hill. Wayne Deal, Custodian at Oakland Beach. Charlene Christina, Reading Teacher at Windman. Andrew Drusilla, Special Educator at Tollgate. And Maggie Korn, Psychologist at Warwick Neck and Park.
Yes, yes.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, I have some courtesy announcements for appointments. We'd like to welcome Deanna Smith. She's a social worker who was with us as a 1-year only. We were able to grant fund the position for another year, so she's being hired as a permanent social worker. So that would be effective for the next school year. Daniel Smith, an elementary principal at Scott Elementary. He'll also be starting next school year. He's replacing Ms. Bolano, who's retiring, I should say. And finally, Amy Panero, who is moving to a different role in the district as the ELA Curriculum and Technology Coordinator. So welcome all to the district and to their new roles.
Thank you very much.
And Amy is here if we would like to say hello to her. Thank you.
Okay, now back onto our agenda. We're going to go moving along to the adoption of policies. Dr. Cecil, would you like to start with KHB advertising, first reading?
Yes, I have them backwards in my packet, so pardon me. So yes, we have first reading of policy KHB advertising. This is a policy that is already on the books, and what we are doing is eliminating on page 4 of 5 and 5 of 5 the expiration review, which is under H, so that we will not need to review this every 3 years. Will be a standing policy because we don't have that on any of our other policies, the need to review every 3 years. We'll review when we need to. So that's the only change, and Mr. Hennius added some legal references to update it. So requesting a approval of a first read of this policy.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we have GBEB. This is second reading. We're now moving into second reading of policies. This is the staff conduct. You've reviewed it, and I'm requesting approval for adoption.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is policy JBA, which is the individuals with disabilities under section 504. This is the updated language that Mr. Hennius prepared for us, and requesting approval for this second read and adoption.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is policy JE, student attendance. This is the policy where we updated the language, first changing quarters to trimesters, and then adding some clarifying language about absences, whether they're excused or unexcused, that they will be recorded on a student's record, and that they would not count, an excused absence would not count against a student when making academic decisions, looking at students for awards, et cetera, if it's an excused absence, and just that clarifying language. So again, requesting approval of this second read for adoption.
Move approval.
Second, I have a question.
Yes, discussion?
Dr. Cecil, so an excused absence wouldn't count, so there's a process, just for the sake of discussion, but there's a process in place for the student and the family to, to request that the absence is excused or whatever? Do we have something around that?
There's language in here that defines what's an excused absence versus an unexcused absence. And they count because they're not in school, so it is an absence, but it would not be used against a student when making academic decisions. So in other words, if a student was absent 14 days or 10 days because of COVID, and it was a legitimate excused absence, they would not be retained. They would not fail the year or anything like that because it was an excused absence.
Okay.
That's what we mean, but it would count on their record. They would be counted as having missed 10 days.
Right. Do we have the ability to have the student's record reflect whether the absence was excused or not, or is it all just excused?
I believe in Aspen, there is a,
Yeah, it's A, E, or just A.
Right, if a student has, say, 8 excused absences.
RIDE doesn't recognize excused or unexcused. It's an absence.
It's an absence.
Period, yeah.
It's
Okay.
missed instruction.
Okay. I'm just wondering what potential ramifications could be for a student in that instance from RIDE, if anything, but that would be for you guys to figure out. So, okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least is policy EEAA, walkers and riders. This was brought to us last meeting to change the limit of miles to receive bus service. So it's being added a quarter of a mile, so now K5 is 1 mile instead of 0.75 miles. Middle school is 2 miles, and senior high is 2.2 miles. Requesting approval for adoption of this.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a question.
Discussion?
Thank you. First, a statement. I understand what this policy means. I think we all do understand what this policy means. And it's my hope that, in the future, we'll have more competition among transportation companies that can help drive the costs down, but right now we don't have that. But my question to Ms. Machado is, Ms. Machado, we have always identified some roads as hazardous roads, right? Like, we don't want, if you live on the eastern side of Ball Hill Road, we don't expect a student to cross Ball Hill Road.
Correct.
Okay, so we do have those, and there has always been a policy for exceptions after a certain period of time passes, right? October or something like that.
Correct.
So
So
we still
something
have that.
with hazardous roads, we deal with that on a, I'm losing my words, on a request basis, because we have our list of hazardous roads. We work with the city on that, and we consider crosswalks, and if there's a crossing guard as well. Obviously for students K to 5, the exception is, we try to help as much as we can. With high school, it does depend on where they live.
Right, because in some instances, you may have an elementary and a middle school child in the same family, the siblings or whatever. And the other thing I think people need to know, the crossing guards, it's always been a bit of a craw for me. They're not ours. We don't employ crossing guards. The police department does. So we would request if we needed a crossing guard at a certain intersection, because I know I have done that in the past, but I know there was a time they couldn't find anybody to do that
Correct.
job. So it's, if we had the ability to pick crossing guards and put them out there, we would, but it's not our call.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cornell?
So, originally I was going to vote in favor of this, but after getting emails from constituents, I actually decided to test it out. I rode my bike to close to Windman to see just what it would be like, which involved crossing a lot of streets, and after that, it could be quite dangerous. So the idea of students taking that route every day, it just doesn't seem right to me. So that's the reason why I'm going to be voting against that tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to just add that I understand why we have to do this, but I don't like having to do this. I think we're just in a bind like every other district and probably most countries. Well, throughout our country at least, with bus problems. And I understand that we have to do this, but it's not something that I want to do. And we're just somewhat backed in a corner at this point. And I'll just reiterate too what Mr. Tessa just said. We are not in charge of the crossing guard situation, and I would hope that they would work with us. Kind of did what Mr. Cornell did, maybe check out some of the intersections where we might need people at this point, because I live in Hoxie. I live right near Hoxie Four Corners, and I would hate to see kids trying to cross Hoxie Four Corners on their own at this point. I see adults trying to do it on a daily basis, and I'm frightened for them. So, I don't know, maybe we can talk to the police before next year starts and see what we can organize on some of these main roads and see if they can maybe improve. I mean, I know they don't have the staff, but we can try, so.
Sure, if I could just speak to Mr. Cornell's comment. So the Tollgate campus is where the exceptions usually are made, because to get down to, Centerville is, how many miles from the school. So most likely those students, they will get a bus. They have to live pretty close to Windman to, for us to find it acceptable for them to walk. So many of those students do get the bus, just because of the way the campus is built.
Thank you for the explanation. But it's not just two, like you have Beds, you have Pilgrim, and there's dangerous streets there too. So I just, in good conscience, can't support this. I know my colleagues also don't support either, but like we have to have a policy. But just personally, I just can't do it, especially after riding my bike across all the streets, and it's just pretty dangerous. That I just don't want to see students doing that every day. Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Nay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cecil, as always. On to new business. We'll start with the first item. Excitingly looking at me is Dr. Schultz. We're going to do a discussion and presentation on COVID-19 impact on Rhode Island.
Good evening, everybody. I have the pleasure of talking tonight about some of my favorite things, which include data and more data. So we'll be talking about the COVID-19 impact on Rhode Island and how it affects Warwick, and also how Warwick is doing compared to other districts that are similar and a little different as well, just for a little bit of variety. And then we have some bright spots to celebrate, so I'll be going over all of that this evening. As we know, the pandemic had a major impact on teaching and learning, and so I wanted to show you a quote here from a report that RIDE shared recently. The pandemic in Rhode Island led to a once-in-a-lifetime crisis hitting the state's education system and adversely impacting its students. And so yes, it impacted Warwick, but we were not the only ones. The entire nation was impacted greatly. And so the overview of the research showed that the RICAS system definitely had an impact. That was what was used for the most part for comparison purposes. And so 2019 and previous years were compared to show trends compared to how we did in 2021. We did not have state testing in 2020 because of the pandemic. Things to keep in mind when you are trying to compare data sets. Things are a little bit different. So what this first bullet tries to explain is that the third graders that are going to be shown in 2019 are not the same third graders in 2021. It's a totally different set of students. So the same students are not being compared with the data. So it's difficult to compare two different, totally different sets of students. But that's unfortunately what we had to do because that's just what the data was in front of us. Also, to keep in mind, participation in RICAS was a lot smaller than in previous years. We had many students opt out. I think 15% on average opt out during 2021, so that definitely skews the data as well. And grade 3, it was the first time that they were taking this test. So the overall findings, the growth data was higher, obviously, before the pandemic, and then we had a sharp decline in achievement. And then they put it into different categories, where it was either severe, large, moderate, modest to none, or showing improvement. And the overall findings were that ELA, English Language Arts, was impacted, not as much as math, however. Math had the biggest impact, and the impacts varied by each subgroup. Hispanic students demonstrated the largest impacts. They were also larger in the higher grades. You'll definitely see that with our Warwick data, and interestingly enough, greater academic impact happened with our higher achieving students as opposed to students that may have struggled with the test in school. For WIDA, which is what our MLLs, our multilingual learners, it was hard to compare this because a smaller number of students take this test, especially in Warwick, when you compare that to RICAS. And so they did show some academic impacts, obviously, but not as much in high school, which was very positive to see, and it's consistent with other states' performance across the board. And so here is how Rhode Island did overall. I compared 2019 to 2021. You could see a sharp decrease overall in Rhode Island for English Language Arts. The next slide shows how we look for math, and you could see, just like I said before, it's a pretty sharp decrease as well, even more than ELA. Looking ahead, research shows that it's about 3 to 5 years to fully recover from the effects of the pandemic. And we're waiting eagerly for our test scores. We just finished up testing across the board, and so what we have in front of us will help inform us as to how we're doing, because this year we had a huge push with iReady and MyPath minutes, which helps to personalize learning for students and really helps to push them forward academically. And we have some really great data to show you, which we're hopeful will be mirrored in our state testing scores. So we have a plan in place. I'm not going to go into it in great detail here, but it shows, when you see the scores in just a moment, you'll see that our learning loss in ELA is similar to the state's loss. We did have a greater impact on math, especially in a couple of grades. We've made a lot of positive changes this year. We've adopted new curriculum. We have new policies in place. We're going to be instituting learning walks again throughout the secondary schools. We've done them in the elementary schools as well. We're implementing a lot of coaching next year. We also adopted many new programs like Read 180 for our interventionists this year. And that has helped us to mitigate this loss. And like I said before, our iReady data shows an upward trend, which research shows should be reflected in our RICAS scores. And so here's how we did in Warwick. And you can see that in ELA, pretty similar, but when you get up to the higher grades, you can see a little bit more of an impact in how we were affected. And then when we go to math, you can see quite a large decrease, especially in grade 6 and grade 8. Now you're probably wondering, how do we compare to other districts? And so I took Warwick, West Warwick, Cranston, and Cumberland, and you can see that it's a very similar decline in math across the board. West Warwick did not have enough students take RICAS, interestingly enough, in 2021 to give us that data point. And then for ELA, you can see, again, pretty similar across the board. So it makes us feel better that it's not just us that have felt that impact. And then here's the positive. This is very exciting. So we use iReady across the board in K-8. And our reading data, if you look, the very beginning of the year, we were at 34% proficient. We want our students to be in the green. And if they're in the green with the lines going through it, then they are doing an amazing job. That means that they're either at the midline at their grade level or above average. And so if you look at how we did now to the bottom of the slide, we are now at 58% proficiency, an increase of 24%. That's huge, huge. And look at how much more of the lines we have, 37% of our kids. We're so impressed with that. And then, yeah, and how much smaller the red is. Thank you, Mrs. Cousineau. And then for math, you can see at the beginning of the year we did struggle. We were only at 17% proficient, but now we are at 49%, 32% increase. So we have shown amazing growth this year thanks to all the hard work of our teachers and our students, and we know that this is going to lead to even better things in the future, and we're looking forward to the RICAS scores when they come out this summer. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me here tonight, Madam Chair, members of the school committee, Superintendent Danbrook. I was asked tonight to give just a short presentation on the Warwick Area Career and Technical Center, the programs and some of the offerings and where we stand right now. Just so you understand, I'm sure many of you are aware, what is great about the Career Center right now is all of our programs are RIDE approved. So essentially, every one of the programs that we have at the Career Center has an industry professional in front of them as an instructor. They also have industry-based standards that are put together that programs follow. Those industry-based standards are not only set by RIDE, they're set by educators, and they're set, more importantly, by professionals in the field. So as industry changes, the standards change, they're in constant evolution. And the last thing is work-based learning, which sometimes happens outside in the community, many times happens within the center itself. So right now we have 15 programs. 3 are located up at Drum Rock, the Child Development Program. We have the Cybersecurity, IT, and Cisco. We wound up adding the cybersecurity element because we realized that's the way the industry was beginning to go, and we wanted to grow that program beyond where it was, and we have health occupations. We have a satellite program over at Pilgrim High School, which is structured a little bit differently, and that is the Studio 107 and AV Technology. And then we have the programs in the main building: electricity, electronics, culinary and baking, automotive technology, aviation. We have the Academy of Business Marketing and Management, which is in its 2nd year. And yeah, as we all know, that was set up to fulfill the need that we were starting to see with students leaving the district. And I can speak to that later. Construction trades, we have a cosmetology program. We also have a marine trades program located at Tollgate High School, graphic design and multimedia, and we have an engineering, drafting, and design. As far as this year, what we did to recruit, because there's always, obviously, we don't want to have students leaving the district. We want to have students finding something that they're passionate about. So the methods that we use this year, for over the last couple of years, we typically utilize Warwick Beacon newspaper ads that are funded through Perkins. We had 8th grade assemblies this year at the feeder schools. We had an open house on March 3rd that was absolutely packed. I think people were done with COVID at that point and wanted to get in and see the programs. And to be quite frank, the rooms, they sell themselves once people see the inside of those rooms. If you have not been to the Career Center, if you walk into a marine trades room, you'll see a Lincoln welder, which is essentially the same welder that they'll be using doing nuclear submarines. So there's no difference in many of the tools. The idea is that students leave the Career Center, they can walk right into industry and recognize what they've been working with within the classrooms. And there's adequate funding for that through Perkins and state categorical money. We sent out Aspen email notifications to classes at the feeder schools, as well as existing high school students. Facebook, Instagram, the Warwick Public Schools website, as well as all the district secondary schools I reached out to put it on their websites. We offer program shadowing throughout the year where any student can come in at any time. Sometimes parents actually will come in, see the room, pick their child up later. We've had parents actually stay in the room for an hour and then leave their child. We had advertising going on during Windman and Warwick Vets middle school lunches. We sent all of our students, we sent our skills students there. They're some of our best students because a lot of times students sell the programs better than the adults can sell the programs. And we have a 9th grade exploratory program, which is essentially September through January. It's a half-credit elective in which 9th grade students spend about 5 days each in each program just to see what they like, what they dislike about the center. And maybe they have a choice in their head and they realize that's what they want to do or what they don't want to do. And as far as our best advertisement right now is this year in Skills USA, the center did extremely well. We had 35 medals, 16 gold medalists are going to Atlanta, Georgia right now, and they're going to represent the state going against other kids in the United States. So as far as advertising goes, we've really had some tremendous outreach, and here's where it's paid off as of right now, and the numbers are still coming in, so that 491 figure will most likely be into the 500s. We've gone from 403 students, grades, for total number of students, grades 10 through 12, to about 491 right now. As far as the exploratory program, I mean, that paints a lot of the picture because those are our grade 9 students. Currently, we have 145 students that went through exploratory this year. That number has exploded. It went to 207 for our next year. New students to the CTC just for level 1, grade 10. Last year was 100, well, this year was 158. We're up to 229 right now. And our number for West Warwick and out-of-district students is about level with where we are right now, which is a good sign because West Warwick typically sends us their numbers a little bit later. Those students continue to trickle in. Total number of out-of-district students right now is 78. Total number that we have right now is about 122, and like I said, that number should grow. So, right now we couldn't be happier. The biggest problem I have right now is I have programs that are closed, and there are room limits, there's space limits, and we will eventually get to a point where there's going to be a need for new professionals, and that's the biggest struggle in CTE, is trying to lure somebody in from the industry to take over a spot. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer the questions.
I would just add that there are 2 programs that are in the application process. We have a Lifesaver that will be initiating an application for at Pilgrim High School. There's also a robotics program at Pilgrim High School will be initiating an application. And I believe Mr. Kane was discussing earlier that the electronics program is expanding into robotics as well. So you'd have a robotics component at both the Shapiro complex and at Pilgrim High School.
Correct.
And to put it in perspective, in 2005, there were about 475 students participating in all career programs in the district. At that time, we had approximately 4,000 students in the secondary high schools. Today, we have under 2,400, about 2,380 for student population, and we have student participation that is just shy of 700 students. So with drawing from a smaller population, more students are participating in career and technical education based upon the hard work of Mr. Kane and his staff at the Career and Tech Center.
Good that our district enrollment up.
So let's go back to Dr. Schultz's presentation. Any questions? First of all, you did, as usual, a great job. High energy. We love it.
Thank you. It's exciting to see our
It
growth.
is. It was impressive to see the scores going up like that. So kudos to our schools and our kids for working hard and trying to make up for lost time.
Absolutely. Our teachers, absolutely. They're doing a great job. And one thing that we did was we really pushed, like I mentioned before, the MyPath. So the students are challenged every time they log on into this iReady platform, and they have to take, certain, it's like games, they have to answer different questions, but it's engaging for the students, but it's also in their zone of proximal development. So their brains are exploding, the synapses are connecting, and they're learning new things from the platform as well. And so it's not just, there's not as much downtime, let's put it that way, in the classrooms, because the students have been encouraged to log on and do MyPath anytime that they can to get their minutes in, because our schools have been doing incentives for the students to do the MyPath. And more MyPath usage has been linked to doing better, obviously, on iReady, and then doing better on state testing. And so we knew that that was, the way to go and to encourage that this year. And teachers have been on board, and our parents have been on board. They've been helping support that at home, our principals. I mean, it's really, really helped, and you can see that from the results.
Great. Any discussion? Mr. Testa?
Madam Chair, thank you. Dr. Schultz and Ms. Cousineau, thank you very much. You know how much this means to me. So I am beyond thrilled that I'm not setting my sights on the RICAS scores coming out showing meteoric rise. But what's going on within that data in the MyPath and the iReady data is very encouraging to me, and I'm glad you put the other districts on there, and then I'll particularly note Cumberland, because people may think Cumberland's an affluent town. It isn't. Demographically, it's very close to Warwick. But they put in place those things that we've put in place. It took them about 5 years to turn it around. And I think the administration, the support you're giving to the educators, all across the board, I'm beyond pleased with it, and I am confident that we're going to see that turn. And I say that from the stage because I'm tired of hearing a lot of the negativity I keep hearing about Warwick schools, okay? My 3 kids have been very well served. I've said that 100 times. But I think we are on the right path here.
Absolutely.
I'm convinced of that. So I just want to thank you and everybody for all their work, because this isn't easy. Coming out of COVID, this isn't easy. A teacher's job can be nothing like it was when I was in school. It was a whole different story. And the way to communicate, when I was in school, you communicated with parents by a note home to my mother. A note came home, that was bad. But there are so many tools we have. We made investments in those tools, and I think they're starting to pay off, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to echo David's plaudits, and I'm praying that this is going to move our schools up from 31 and start moving Warwick back in the right direction, because it's been too long. But it's been too long. We've waited too long to get this up and running, and to get the new curriculum and things like that. I mean, it's great that it's now, but it should have been 10 years ago, But you weren't here then, and so I'm very pleased, and keep up the awesome work.
Thank you. I think that the puzzle pieces are coming together. We have great team members that are really working so hard to make structures in place that help support students in the best way possible. We're reevaluating everything. The curriculum team is working very closely with the elementary office and the secondary office to make sure that we are providing only the best instruction for students. We have a new vision coming down the pike for next year that I started to talk about with some of the constituents. And so I think it's going to be really targeted. We're going to continue to see growth. And yes, we will see our high schools on the rise. Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Woo.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd also like to congratulate the curriculum team, Ms. Cousineau, for their work. You truly are the cheerleaders for moving MyPath and iReady forward, and you should be celebrating, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We're very excited.
We are too, thank you. So, anyone else? Okay, so now we'll move to the Career and Tech Center. Any discussion, Mr. Testa?
Madam Chair, yeah, I apologize. I said I wasn't going to talk much. Mr. Kane, thank you. Your presentations aren't as caffeinated as Dr. Schultz's. But
Tough competition.
those numbers are really impressive. And that's a testament to you when it comes to advertising in every single local news source, whether it's the North Kingstown Patch, the East Greenwich Patch, Arnie Billy General Patton going through Europe after D-Day. No prisoners. We,
Package, just so you know, when we advertise in the Beacon, it goes out to the satellite pages.
good.
Excellent.
Good, because this is the game that the Department of Ed has set up, so let's play, right? And that's how we're going to see an improvement of those numbers. I'm beyond pleased with that, too. Thank you.
Ms. Bacchus?
And as am I have a question. Are all our programs CTC programs, or do we have any pathways?
All of them on that list are approved by Career and Tech program.
Woo! That's awesome. I mean, we killed the pathway programs, but people just don't realize it. You folks do such a good job over there, and I'm just so excited with everything going on. And thank you. And if we need to do those, you know, when you go to the other CTCs and stuff, they have those fancy, use the fancy paper and all that, and do the flyers and all kinds of stuff. And you know what, if we need to do that to get kids, then let's do it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I omitted one thing. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Mr. Kane,
Mr.
you
Testa.
talked about the challenges, right, going forward because you're growing. New facilities dramatically change what we're able to offer, right? There's no question about that. And we know the importance of facilities, so I mean, I still remain excited that new facilities would just take what we can do with CTC and Pathways and just expand it beyond, I think, our wildest imagination. So keep our fingers crossed. Thank you.
I have, okay.
The other thing is that this weekend on Sunday, the Career and Tech is having their annual golf tournament to fund our kids to go, our skills kids to go to Skills USA. It's a fantastic event, and anybody who would like to make a donation can do so, and send your money to Warwick schools and earmark it for the skills program at the Career and Tech. Thank you.
I actually have a question. Mr. McCaffrey, you were talking about the pathways at like the life-saving program.
Yes.
How long is that going to take to be completely certified by RIDE, do you know?
Our hope is we can get it done next year, when the application process opens up again. Our goal is to get it done next year. Mr. Gibbons is on board, Dr. Guerra is on board, as well as the staff at Pilgrim.
Excellent. I just want to add that that program is doing already amazing things, the life-saving program. And I follow it online, and I've gone and sat through one of the classes, and it's a tremendous program. So I'm glad that's going to be completely on board, hopefully sooner than later, by the state. Excellent. And again, thank you, Mr. Kane. You did a great job. On to number 3, construction projects update discussion. Mr. Gothberg.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, superintendent. I would first like to introduce our new Assistant Director of Construction and Capital Projects, William Marcarello. Bill is a wealth of construction and technical experience and will be an exceptional addition to our team. I ask you to welcome to the district.
Welcome.
Now we'll get to the updates. The Sherman Project. Sherman Project is well underway. Demolition is at about 95% complete. Abatement is approximately at 80%. They should be wrapping that up sometime next week. Ductwork coordination and layout has started in the areas that have been demoed and cleared for the asbestos. HVAC components, plumbing, electrical should start being roughed in next week. I have no changes in delivery schedules for the rooftop units at this point in time. So we're still looking February, it looks like, at this point in time. Windman, in coordination with the building administration and the staff, second shift ceiling tile removal has begun. The contractor is bringing in a cleaning crew at the end of each shift to ensure to clean the area where the ceiling tiles have been removed. So we're ready to go early in that area. They're taking measurements for steel. Anything they can do above the ceiling, they're doing without disrupting any learning or staff. Demolition and removal of the gym heating units started this week. The 2 boilers not responsible for heating domestic hot water have been decommissioned and drained and are awaiting abatement and demolition. This ability to start some of this work 2 weeks early will be critical to ensure completion of this summer's planned work and have the school open, be ready to open for late August. Hoxie, due to the project coming in $1.2 million over budget and supply chain issues with both HVAC equipment and the electrical service equipment through Engrid, now Rhode Island Power, we will not be able to move ahead with this work plan for this summer. We are looking at redesign possibilities to bring down the costs and plan an early bid for late this summer or early September for next year so we can move ahead with that project. Greenwood, good news, bids came in within budget for asbestos abatement and the planned site work project and that ramp in front. Tower construction will be awarded that project, and we should start that second week, very end of June. Park and Scott, not good news with the bids. Those site projects came in double the budgets. A lot of that had to do with the price increase in oil, which has to do with asphalt, because a lot of this is asphalt. So we're going back to the drawing board. We're going to look at a redesign, reduce scope, see what we can do, and we're going to try and rebid in hopes of completing that this summer. If prices don't come down, we're going to have to look at it for next year. Playgrounds, playground designs for Greenwood, Oakland Beach, Hoxie, Welk, and Sherman will be completed this week, and I'll work with Mrs. Machado to get those bids out shortly, and depending on supply chain, they will be completed November. If supply chain is bad, we may have to wait till late April for completion. Depends on when the equipment is available. High school projects, some good news there. RIDE Stage 2 and final approvals were received on May 17th. The memorandum of agreement, if you guys did not already see it, is available for your signature this evening. And RIDE reimbursement rate with that MOA was substantially more than expected. As you know, the cost that we were talking about for the project is $350 million for both schools. We originally were talking about $300 million as a RIDE reimbursable figure. It has come in at $314,559,510, as we talked about last meeting. Reimbursement rate is 50%, $157,279, $755, and that's we are good for that 50%. As you know, we've talked about program and hoping to increase the percentage for the facilities condition index. That would give us another 5%. However, we're only eligible for another 2.5%. So that reimbursement at 52.5% would be $165,143,742. That additional 2.5% is worth $7.8 million additionally. So, and it only is costing $13,000 to do it. So I will be meeting with that team June 22nd and 23rd, and walk them through and show them every nook and cranny, everything wrong with that building that I can. Also, with the MOA, pay-as-you-go funding is at $14,547,461. And if the statewide bond passes, I finally got the correct figure for that, we would get another $808,902,950 in pay-go funding, which all of that would bring us down to the bond would be, for the bond would be $326,549,589. So that's all good news there. Finally, I'm pleased to announce that last night at Warwick City Council meeting, which most everybody was there, the City Council approved the resolution to move the enabling legislation forward to the state legislature to put the $350 million bond on the ballot for November 2022 election with a 7-to-1 vote. I would like to personally thank the council for their faith in the district and their acknowledgement of our high school's dire need for replacement. The hard work begins now of informing the people of Warwick of that need. So we move forward with forums or whatever we have to do to inform the people of Warwick. Thank you. Any questions?
Just have one comment, Mr. Gothberg. I think the public needs to understand that the projects you're talking about at the elementary schools when they're coming in over budget, those are estimated 2 years ago.
Some were estimated in 2017.
Okay, so
All right.
we'll go to bid 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. It's a different
Right.
circumstance.
We've got that 5-year window, and we're coming in the 4th and 5th year on that first bond. The second bond, the $56 million, they were estimated 2019, 2020, with what we considered plenty of escalation, but it's very hard to project 60% escalation or better.
Right, and the point I want to make is twofold. Number one, I think there is legislation at the General Assembly to take that 5-year window where you have to spend the money and extend it to. We'll see what happens. That could help. The second, more important point to make here is the $350 million high school project is not a 3 or 4 year old number. That is about a 3 or 4 month old number.
Correct. That number was estimated with what we consider realistic escalation in today's market between April 1st and April 15th. So it's not a figure and where we're going to build it now. We think we're going to build it now for $350 million. That's not what we're talking about. We're projecting that as we move forward, considering that, it won't be, hopefully it'll be approved in November by the voters, and the City Council will see to move it forward, that we can do it for the $350. The other thing that we will charge the design team with is that they will need to design to the budget. If we need to cut some square footage, if we need to cut a few frills, change a few things, then we will have to do that to meet the budget.
Right, and the fact that we're essentially designing putting the same school in 2 places, you get efficiencies from that by
Correct.
designing the same building. So now I just wanted people to know, because it's like you said, the hard work starts now, and if you listen, they bring up the project in Pawtucket, the soccer field, which is $40 million over. $40 million over 2019 number. So it's not applicable to what we're trying to accomplish here. So, but thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, as usual, for your hard work. Next item, discussion action, elementary principal contract, Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening, Madam Chair again, and members of the school committee. We come before you asking for approval of the contract for the elementary principal, Daniel Smith.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And again, we come before you for approval of the contract for the coordinator of ELA Technology and Curriculum for Amy Pinero, presented in executive session.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to withdraw item 6 from on the agenda from tonight's session.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to number 7, the discussion update of the FY 2022 monthly financial report and year-end review. Requisitions approved for $500 to $49,999,000. Mr. McGrath?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. Before you, you'll find my monthly fiscal report. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions? No questions.
Do you want me to move on to 8? Okay. Before you, you'll find the updated FY23 Superintendent's Recommended School Committee Revised Budget. The only addition to this budget was at the City Council meeting, they moved to add $120,000 to our salary lines to fund 2 additional TAs, and you'll find that reflected in our salaries. Other than that, it's the same budget that was passed by you previously, so we just need a motion to approve that as the 2023 School Committee Recommended Budget.
I move approval.
Second, and I have just a comment, quick comment. I would like to thank the mayor for putting our ask in the budget, the council for approving it. I think we made a good case, and I'm just appreciative that they heard us out.
I just want to say I'm very glad that the two TAs are being put back into budget. I'm very glad to see the council put that forward. Yes, not always that you lose a vote and then win a vote later, so I'm just glad that's put back. So I think this is a good budget, and I'm glad we don't have to make any more cuts. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Bacchus?
Thank you. I want to thank the mayor and the council for approving the monies for the budget. I think it's a win for everyone.
I too want to thank the mayor and the city council for realizing the need for these TAs and giving us the money, and I'm very grateful because that was one of the cuts that I was upset about. So,
I just want to reflect the same sentiments that my colleagues expressed. Every year we go through budget, and it's incredibly tedious, and I'm glad we were able to, pass it obviously this year with, I guess, no resistance from the council. 7-1, but it would have been incredibly hard for it to come back to us with some cuts that we would have had to make, because we would have had to make cuts that we would not have liked to have made, because it's paper thin at this point for us. Like, everything that we need is what we need, and that was on the and was on that budget. So, thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, next item is the discussion action contract award, the Aquarian Tech Center, the cosmetology textbook package. Mr. Kane and Mr. McCaffrey. Turn the mic on. Thank you.
This is a textbook package for the cosmetology program. They have to purchase this to stay with the industry-specific standards. The old version is now outdated. It's at no cost to the district as it's funded through through Perkins funding, sorry.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, item 10, discussion action, the change order for the Career and Tech Center Rocks Fresh Food. Again, Mr. Kane, you
Yep,
should have
this
just
is
stayed there.
simply a matter of shifting funds to be able to pay existing invoices that'll be coming in for Rocks, which is for the culinary program.
Excellent.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh.
Well,
Does someone want to speak? We good?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to the discussion action on the bid award for Food Service Management Company. Ms. Machado.
Good evening. I'm requesting to award Aramark the Food Service Management RFP 22-0025 for the 22-23 school year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. We also have Aramark representatives here as well to answer any questions.
Discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question. Ms. Machado, we had more than one bidder? Or no?
We did not. We only had one.
Just one. Why do you think that is? Is it, I hate to say it's COVID-related, but I work in the food service industry, so I know what impact that is, but we're a sizable district. So, our lunch program should be pretty attractive for those companies, so.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd advertise, and I sent it to a number of companies. We only received, Sodexo did send a letter that they weren't bidding, but I could definitely reach out and ask.
I'm just curious. I mean, it's not something, I'm not sure, I could stand corrected. It may not be something you have the luxury of just going back out to bid, because you need a lunch program in place when your school starts.
Correct.
So, and how many years is this? Is this one?
So it's 3 years with an extension to 4 to 5, but we have to ask every year for ride requirements.
Okay, and we have the option in those other years to go out to bid again?
If we're very unhappy and we have evidence.
Okay, so it's reason-based to go out?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd move approval.
I have some questions myself. David asked some of the questions that I had about the bid awards, and I'm concerned why nobody else would have been on a district our size. And I will say that I hear a lot of negativity about the food that is served in our schools from my constituents, including the children. So what is the clause that if we give them a 3-year contract, if we're dissatisfied, how can we get out of that?
Sure. So, I'd like to meet with the vendor and discuss what the issues are. Food, that relies heavily on what we are federally required to do. So it's just creating that evidence. I'm sure, it's the same as getting any vendor to be removed from the district. We just
Okay, we can get out of it if we have to, because I'm hoping, I looked at the menus, I'm looking at them again, and I see they're kind of trying to change things up, but it's not always about changing it up, it's about the taste and the quality. And I'm hoping that they can, and I hope they're listening, that they can do a better job, because I've had people complaining on not just secondary, but on an elementary level, and I've also seen some of the food, and it seems to me, and I know they have to follow requirements, but very sugary, very sugary, for lunches, and
they are here. I
don't
like
need to
for
get
them
into a big argument with
No,
them.
but I'd like
if
them
they're
to
here, I
defend
just want to say,
themselves.
step it up, guys. We're a good district. We'd like to keep you, but please do something about the menus, because I have to listen to our kids, and I like when our kids contact me or when they talk to me. So the kids are complaining, and I've also had teachers and people in the building saying, yeah, check that out, Judy. So I hope they step it up a little bit. I can see that they're trying to throw in some new things. Please know that I do keep an eye on the menus and things to see what's going on. I do see that there's some, switching it up, and I'm glad to see that. So now's the time to go for it and improve. Anyone else?
Yes, please. I too have received numerous complaints from students at both the high schools and the elementary schools. And I think it's the quality of the food sometimes, and like back in the day, we used to call the burgers hockey pucks and things like that. So I don't know what they're going to do about it, but there are a lot of people that aren't happy with it, and a lot of food goes in the garbage that shouldn't. That kills me.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a vote.
It's been moved, it hasn't been
Oh,
seconded yet.
it hasn't been, where's David? Not listed. Okay. It's
No,
been
it wasn't
seconded?
second. Who
Well,
seconded it?
does someone want to second it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Please improve.
Just this, it should have been seconded before it went to discussion.
Okay, let's move on to item 12, discussion action contract award for secondary Rhode Island Link renewal. Mr. McCaffrey.
Madam Chair, members of the school committee, I request approval for the renewal of our Rhode Island Library Information Network for Kids for the 22-23 academic school year.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, discussion action contract awards, special services, Promethean boards for Welk. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here presenting this item on behalf of Mr. Capolino. What this item is looking for is the installation of 15 Promethean boards at the Welk. We, as you know, through your support, has placed Promethean boards in all of our elementary schools to match the secondary schools as well. And through an assessment, he had determined that the interactive technology for our preschool students, they deserve that as well. So we'd ask for your approval this evening.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Oh. Any discussion?
Yes. Mr. Taylor, you said that they deserve it, but does it benefit them?
Yeah, I would say, from my perspective, certainly, I'd also defer to Ms. Cosino as more of an early childhood specialist. But that interactive technology, hands-on learning, I look at, students from very early ages, whether it's iPads or any type of devices, benefits the learning early on. So I would, again, defer to Ms. Cosino, but.
Thanks, Dr. Taylor. Yeah, I agree with Dr. Taylor as well. I think these would be a great idea for our preschool. Not only are they larger than life, but it's super engaging for them, and it's for kids who have trouble sitting for long periods of time. It's so interactive. They could go up to the board and interact with the board for letters, sounds, shapes, numbers, weaknesses that they have, even fine motor. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. I asked that question for the parents because I want them to know what's going on.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cornell.
So just so everyone knows, this is grant funded, correct?
It is grant funded and budgeted in that grant.
Okay, thank you. Just thought people should know that.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, just I guess this goes to Ms. Cusino, and Mr. Capolino's not here, but I see the value. I do, because these kids are pretty adept at very young ages. As long as we're still doing the see, touch, and feel stuff, right? Like they can pick up the
Absolutely.
block.
There's a
and-
lot of sensory tables and things like that
Yeah, I just
over at
want to see
Welk
us
as well.
gravitate to just, they're on the Promethean most of the time, as long as we mix it up, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
And on a side note, all of the elementary principals are actually visiting the Welk preschool program on next Monday, so that we have some principals who have never even been to Welk. So Julie Martin is going to be giving all of them a tour and showing us the programs and talking about transitions and things like that. So we're really stepping it up with Welk this year.
Thank you.
So, but the Promethean board going in, that's an addition, that's just another tool that we can use to help the
Absolutely,
kids.
just another layer of programming.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion action on bid award special services on the sensory gym at Welk. I don't know who's handling that.
I can take that one on behalf of
Thank you very much.
Mr. Capolino. Requesting to award the Welk Sensory Items bid 22-0034 to the following bidders: Discount School Supply, Fun and Function, Kaplan Early Learning Co., Lakeshore Learning Materials and Therapy Shop, for the items listed on the memos on the document.
And Madam Chair, if I may, also, again, in a conversation with Julie Martin today, they again are trying to add another layer of programming in by putting the sensory room together for programming for students with those types of needs.
Madam Chair, I have one question.
Yes?
Where in Welk are we going to put that room, do we know?
It's interesting you should mention that, because Julie and I had that conversation today. So I know Director Copolino in that was talking about part of the gymnasium. Julie, find just the right spot.
Thank you. I move approval.
I have a comment to make. I'm actually very excited about this. I think this is an incredible addition. After spending time at Welk, those kids are just,
They're
they're
some of my
something. These
favorites.
kids are something. I think this is an incredible tool that they're going to have for their age group and the ones that have disabilities. I think it's going to progress them. I think it will be helpful. So I want to thank everybody for their hard work on getting this to happen.
Great, thank you. I will certainly let Julie Martin know that as well, and her staff.
Yeah. Okay.
Mrs. Martin, the agenda had already gone out previously, but she would like it to be known as a motion and movement center instead of a sensory gym. So as the OTs would be working with the students in this location, and she just wanted to be that on the record.
Okay, thank you.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item, discussion action, contract award, secondary Xillo renewal. Mr. McCaffrey.
Madam Chair, members of the school committee, I'm requesting your approval for the renewal of our site license for Zello. This helps supports our students with their individual learning plans. This will be for the 22-23 academic school year.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, lastly, number 16, discussion action, contract award technology renewal of various technology budgeted software programs, open purchase orders, and annual contracts. I understand that these are all have been budgeted and that needs our approval, so we can do that in a bulk. We good with that?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. And you've just stated it best. It's the annual renewals of our contracts, all items that we have budgeted and use on a regular basis to ensure that that continuity of service at July 1 occurs. They're all budgeted in the fiscal year 23 budget.
Okay. Do we have any questions or discussions on this?
Move approval.
Second, and I have a question.
I do too.
Please go.
It's not a question, just a statement. I'm familiar with all of these things, and people who attend these regularly would be familiar. Some of these things like Go Guardian, a student facing. But just my quick math here, this is $750,000, right? So, you know, education is expensive. I don't know how else to describe it. So these are $750,000, and there's nothing here that you can do without. You can't do without any of this. So it's just to make a point, though. But I appreciate that, and thank you.
Hello. I wanted to ask, what is, just because I'm interested, what is Chrome Hero and what does it do?
Absolutely. Yep. Great question. So Chrome Hero is a program that we've been using for the last 3 years or so. And what that does is twofold. One, it manages our inventory of Chromebook parts. So as we come before you on a regular basis, that's our part inventory management system. And it also helps us to generate the invoicing for all the repairs done to the Chromebooks.
And what about SolarWinds?
SolarWinds is that SolarWinds is a product from Samanage, and Samanage is our ticketing system that we use so that teachers, if they have a need, or administrators, put in a help ticket, and that's how that gets addressed.
Cool. As David said, education it's very expensive, but just try ignorance, it's even more costly, as they say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, second public comment for non-agenda items.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Sharon Boucher, and I teach English at Windman Middle School. I'm here tonight to implore you to revisit the dress code and the cell phone policy in our district. We have had so much drama at our school these past few weeks and months regarding the dress code, but the ongoing problem has been the cell phone. As you know, there are many distractions. As a teacher of middle school students, there are numerous. 2 distractions that we can get a handle on are the dress code and the cell phone policy. Specifically, I wish it would state cell phones need to be stowed away in their locker at the beginning of the day. To have them on their person, it's a distraction. They're taking pictures, they're photographing each other, they're bullying, they're going into the bathroom, they're taking TikTok videos, and all of this takes away from their education. And that's the point of us coming into school every day. So please, please look at these policies, and hopefully for the upcoming school year. Is it possible?
We can't really go back and forth,
okay.
but I was just going to ask you if you would like to stay. I will talk to you.
Sure.
After the meeting, I would love to.
I would
I
appreciate
actually
that.
was forwarded your email, so I'd appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello, Julie Connors Costello, Windman Middle School. I would like to also echo what Ms. Boucher had said about the 2 policies. Hopefully we can get these policies taken care of over the summer, so that way they're ready to roll day 1 when school opens. I know that Mr. McCaffrey did come by the PTO meeting the other night, which was wonderful. Thank you so much. There has been a lot of negativity out there about Windman and, you know, the whole dress code issue. So hopefully that's something that we can, you know, get updated. From what I can tell, there are 2 policies out there that are floating around, possibly 3. But what I see from the district website, July 9th, 1996 was the last time that it was really addressed. So, you know, Bermuda shorts, nobody knows what I know what they are. But younger parents and children don't know what Bermuda shorts are, so maybe changing the language there kind of idea. Perhaps considering teacher voices also when creating these policies about the cell phone and the dress code. Since we're the ones on the front line, you know, who have to deal with that. Mr. Haywood is amazing. He's done a wonderful job, but he has a lot more to do than just simply police how people are dressed or the cell phone issue. I was wondering also, will there be late buses up and running in September? I guess that's you, Ms. Machado? October. So October 2022, there will be late buses. Okay, thank you. I wish Mr. Kane was still here. I'd like to say what a great job that he has, you know, taken over from Mr. McCaffrey and expanding things. I think it's pretty awesome. As far as the lunch services, put it this way, Taco Tuesday and Build-A-Burger days are the worst days if your students are coming back from fourth lunch. The lines are incredibly long, and kids aren't really served in a timely manner. We only have 19 minutes at Windman for lunch, so it's kind of a lot for, the food staff, but also for kids to even be able to get in line to get something to eat. We do have 4 lunches, but where do you take more time so kids can have, more than 19 minutes to eat? And then lastly, I would like to publicly thank the teachers from Greenwood, Windman, and Tollgate for the amazing education that they provided for my children, Riley and Jillian. They have been class acts right along from, the very first day in first grade, and Jill is graduating next Tuesday. So COVID, athletics, course offerings, and just the willingness of these human beings to, listen to what my children needed. And Mike and I are very grateful to all of those teachers, so hopefully some of them are listening. And so yeah, that's it. As of June 14th, probably somewhere around 3 o'clock. I'll be done as a Warwick parent. And then I just go back to being the taxpayer, 25 years at Windman and everything else. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And if you'd like to stay back with your colleague, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
Hi. I can tell my colleagues that those policies are being looked at and revised all the time and updated. And the school committee did pass an updated cell phone policy. It just needs to be enforced. I mean, we teachers need backup because I have high school, and the ubiquity of cell phones, the obsession with cell phones, I could go on and on. The madness needs to stop. Hopefully in the fall, we'll be maskless. The remnants of COVID maybe will be behind us. We can get back to the beginning of the year full class meetings where the administration takes the 9th graders as soon as they go off the school bus, they put them in the auditorium, and they welcome them to the school, but also explain the rules of the school. And that's what's been missing the last couple of years. It's not the kids' fault. I mean, it's not our fault. It's the situation, but order needs to be restored in order for education to occur. Sorry, it can't be a free-for-all. You're not there to play all day. You're there to learn. I just wanted to congratulate the school committee and the school department for the work that everyone has done on putting the bond project together for the new high schools. I was one of the people sitting there very late last night at the city council meeting, and it is kind of distressing to hear fellow citizens of Warwick being so negative about the possibility of new schools. We cannot put them off any longer, and Mr. Gothberg, I think, did an excellent job of explaining the money that's going to come back to us if we get this in front of the voters and the voters pass it. We are not going to have this opportunity again for a very long time, if ever. So I know that the school department is planning to educate the public. There was much talk last night of how the taxpayer didn't know this was happening, which is not true, because it's been going on for a couple of years. And through each of the different phases of this project, the school committee had meetings, it's been at city council meetings, so we all know it's happening. Ultimately, the voters will get to decide, but I am hoping that after the voters are educated, they will do the right thing and they will vote for this bond so we can have new schools, so we can have the 21st or 22nd century facilities that we need in order to have the kind of programs that students need in order to get their education properly. The Career Center is a wonderful place, but it also is a 20th century building trying to do 21st century learning. and do industry standard learning. And with these proposals, some of those programs will be in either the new Pilgrim or the new Tollgate, and it will have all of the updated facilities, even something as basic as electrical outlets. We don't have. If you ever want to see a horror show, I'll take you into the Tollgate High School English Department book room, and you can see the spaghetti that's in there trying to provide Wi-Fi and computer access to that part of the building. It's not good. So I just wanted to congratulate everybody on, a job well done. We're not there yet, but, last night was a major success. So kudos to you, and thank you to the city council for doing the right thing too, because most of those counselors made very eloquent statements as to why these schools are needed. Thank you.
Our future meetings, next monthly school committee meeting is Tuesday, July 12th. And at this time, we can adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and thank you, everyone, for spending the time to come here.